Hello, and thank you, and it's really a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting, and again, thank you, Eva, for organizing, and multiple emails, and again, it's actually been a discovery since I've arrived, and seeing this fantastic architecture so sensitive to the context, and with amazing social purpose and meaning in it. So thank you. So I would like to present actually House Europe project and talk about how can we move from discussion to collective action. And as I mentioned, for the past 10 years, I've been practicing in Denmark and teaching in Denmark, where my main focus was on larger transformation project. And the question which followed me is how can architecture regain its social meaning, and how can we actually move to the space where it can trigger systemic change and create the better conditions for us to practice. So which led me to House Europe project. So House Europe is a non-profit organization. It's registered in Berlin, and it's aimed at raising awareness for matter of built environment by means of activism, education, communication through public events and ECIs. And there are 3 streams we're working with. It's community, competency, and policy. So the main question is, why did we initiate it? And most of us who started were in this teaching space and the practice space. And what we were realizing is how can we build without costing people and the planet? When we're in the midst of both ongoing climate crisis and housing crisis, but somehow the 2 groups are not talking together. And what as architects can we do? And what we're doing is actually confronting this narrative which is prevalent and which we as well been meeting for practice and for documents which we've been looking through, is that response to affordability is to build more. But with the building sector, as we all know, but statistic, it is shocking, 38%. And that's something we know as architects, but public doesn't know. And 36% of waste, and which for me is even more shocking, it's 68% of global wealth. So it's an asset. And that's where the demolition drama unfolds. So if we continue as now, by 2050, and that's where I think it's kind of blows everyone's mind, we would demolish 2 billion of square meters of existing space in Europe. And instead, we'll have built billions of square meters of new space as a replacement for what was already there. Because of financial speculation, countless buildings still empty and vacant, and we can see it across all the European cities. And the main problem is as well, they stand on this precious land, right? Where all for our taxpayers' money, that's what infrastructure is, what we pay collectively for. And then it's, I guess it's very familiar, and it's fascinating that you already are addressing it. So could we challenge this narrative of affordability being about building more and explore the potential of what could be done with what is to be demolished and create affordable homes for it? So we're an organization working on social and ecological transition of a built environment. And the question for us is, how do you not only design the thing itself, but design the advent of its idea into the culture? And as I mentioned, there are 3 streams. The first one is the community, building a network. And the organization itself is very small, but the kind of the institutions and the legal partners, different actors across discipline, that's what makes it powerful. And as well, groups from the different industries. And the other thing that we're doing a lot is the public events. For example, here at the launch in Berlin, in Tempelhof, of the ECI, which I'll address in next one. And the second part is the competency, where I will look into Renovation Atlas, and that's where actually we as architects can cooperate and can see that there's already a positive change which already takes place across. So this is an interactive atlas. Everyone can log in and have a look and add your own project. I think Croatia is represented, but there definitely can be added more. And I will go through a few case studies which prove that transformation is not only a luxurious option which can win you a lot of awards, but as well it can be a way of actually transforming simply and providing affordable housing, which would improve the social fabric at large. So with this first project, actually already realized in 2011, this is a Savonnerie Heijmans, the former soap factory. And again, existing was seen as a potential instead of limitation. So it's located in a very central area in Brussels, and it provided 42 units of different types, which both included the integrated of existing factory and adding the new buildings. And what was very important is actually that the whole design unfolds around the social spaces of how it doesn't become this closed-off social housing area, but really as well acts as a heart of a neighborhood, with a cafe, and you see the central one is the washing room, and the park in the industrial structure. So the development is focused around 3 voids: the mini forest, the larger courtyard, and the park. So to continuing this intricate industrial sequence of spaces, constituting a variety of experiences, contributing to the social mix and diversity within. So there are 2 renovated buildings on the perimeter, and inside the added the new dwellings. And different types, studios, lofts, duplexes, maisonettes, as well to respond to different family structures. And on architectural level, these loggias, or the glass-enclosed bioclimatic loggias, are something which characterizes the entire complex, providing both an effective acoustical and thermal space, but as well space for interaction and kind of expanding this fluid boundary between semi-private and public space, and as well as a space where you actually can meet your neighbor. And the most probably important and why this project is so successful is the way they worked with the landscape, kind of transforming this very harsh industrial environment into a lush garden. As well, Brussels is overheating like many places, so creating this oasis was very important, and removing the existing surfaces. But at the same time, this garden became the social project, the glue of development itself, where the residents are intrinsic part of it. So this allowed the formal industrial structure not just to become this kind of perfect framing, but they act as a play elements, as you can see here themselves, adding to the unique character, and as well just becoming a fantastic place to grow up in the center of Brussels. The second project is a Grand Park Bordeaux by Le Caton Vassal. I guess it's quite prominent, but I always feel it's very important to point it out. So this really proves that renovation can be the both most efficient, affordable, but as well generous version. So this is a social housing complex where all residents could stay during the renovation. And as well, each of apartments gets this winter garden. And the new construction could not be done in the same place. And you can see in this axonometry, what we've done is, as well, why they were able to do it so fast is because the kind of a plug-in was modular, and it acts as a blanket. It's a non-heated space. And what Le Caton Vassal call it is this idea of spatial luxury, basically the idea of luxury and simplicity with very simple materials, but allowing the air to flow and moving from this very cramped, I'm trying not to turn, cramped conditions to kind of space, light, and finally getting access to these fantastic views which many of these towers and high-rises have. So as well, this approach that cheap is more, basically what they were able to do, which they would never be able to afford the same level with a new build, is doing it without increasing the rent and without moving occupants out. And as Vassal adds, that the generosity of space, freedom of use, and the possibility of appropriation, that's what residents value the most. And I think the beauty of it is that, as they put it, people place things in their winter gardens that we as architects would never expect. And somehow allowing the inhabitants to use this capacity, you remain constantly surprised by what they do. And this project in Bordeaux, it follows an example from Paris, from Tourbeau-le-Prêtre earlier, where as well it was given this winter garden treatment. And what we actually were able to prove that it's not only cheaper to do and gives you more space and quality space to do this transformation with additions, but as well it's absolutely possible to change the public image and perception of a building. The next project, it's from Denmark, back home, and I think it's maybe specifically relevant as well to Croatian context, because you would imagine that Denmark doesn't really have this problem in the rural areas, but actually they are lacking interest, they are lacking finances, and often the transformation is seen as an expensive version. So in this one, this was a pilot project of transforming existing factory by using this modular timber construction. So instead of, it's done by ARC agency, and what we're doing, instead of adjusting the factory, they adjusted the unit. So basically they suggested how can we minimize the, and you can see on the next slide, sort of preserving the existing and use this principle of house in a house. With the darker tones, it's the insulated area, and then the buffer zones is the lighter areas. So core and the shell. Core is insulated and the shell is not, which has the additional programs like workshops, galleries, and at the same time acting as a buffer. So it is in the meeting between this raw and unheated space and the new core that the building heritage is conveyed. And you can see that exactly this contrast and multi-layered quality of space what gives us a special character and charm. But as well, on a practical level, this project is used as a model, is replicated to use in transformation of other factories and train stations all across rural Denmark. And now we'll go to the third one, the policy, and that's maybe the more... It's harder to make it exciting, however we really try, because our main idea is to make it public, make it bottom up, and use the tools we can, which is European Citizen Initiative, ECI. So in order to make the projects like I've shown, not just with pearls and examples, which happen sometime in a perfect condition, financed by foundations often, we need to change the legislation. So we translate our knowledge as practitioners into concrete policy. And the first initiative was called Power to Renovation, and the aim was to collect 1 million signatures across Europe, and then the document lands onto the table of the European Commission and European Parliament. So it's our tool, actually, as citizens, as practitioners, to speed up work and really raise our voice. So in times of a climate and housing crisis, the statistic is that every minute a building in Europe is demolished. So buildings like that. And we want to stop the demolition of functioning buildings and make renovation a new norm. Somehow we really see that it's a missed opportunity, which would create a new value chain where we move from material to labor, which makes a lot of sense, especially with the prices going up. So how to unlock this market and boost renovation, that's what we try to sum up in this ECI, Right to Reuse, where we, as practitioners across, maybe it was in the beginning around 10 countries, we came together and then tried to use all this experience from practice of what could be a consolidated legislation, which included the tax reduction for renovation, the fair rules to access the potential not only risks, and as well new values for the embedded energy, the grey energy, because this varies a lot from different countries, but mostly when we calculate the grey energy, the what was demolished is not coming into inclusion, even in Denmark. So the ECI ended in February, and we did not reach 1 million signatures. It is quite hard to break out from the architectural and build bubble. However, what we were able to do is build a very big community and network, and we did collect around 80,000 signatures across. But what we treated as is a pilot project. So we're kind of only beginning, and we tested the ground, but we can use this tool successfully. So the new initiative is exactly about challenging this prevalent narrative of building more and designing a legal proposal to prioritize the affordable housing in the existing. That's why it was so heartwarming to see that you are already including it in your Housing Act. So the proposal is an open draft process, and we really value the local knowledge. So I would invite you to participate in webinars, seminars, as well as surveys. So it's very easy. You can just do it home by your desktop, and then it ends up in kind of collective way of shaping the strategy where the European lawyers after will go through and try to summarize. So I would like to finish with this quote from Saskia Hebert, that the greatest challenge for architects is to create self-sustaining practice in times of post-growth. And I think this movie from Arch Plus, from the issue of architects as business as usual, perhaps points to a more optimistic future for our profession. And how can we remain relevant?
Work hard, be happy, work more, take care of yourself. Work harder, care less, earn money, don't speak about it. Architects are in high demand. Construction is flourishing, nominal wages are rising. Students get hired straight out of university. Statistically, we have rarely been better off. So why are we so unhappy? Architects have made a pact, low wages for creative freedom and fulfillment. But right now, this fulfillment is gone, as the deregulated market does not allow architecture to live up to its social aspiration, as the destructive consequences of architecture have become undeniable, as the architectural practice has become a financial instrument and an asset itself, between exploitation and extraction. We cannot ignore our influence on society. We cannot deny our impact on this planet. We cannot reduce our practice to wage labor. We cannot become voluntary prisoners of unfulfilling work. Instead, we need to focus on the social meaning of labor by confronting ourselves with the tasks of building, by conceptualizing our everyday work as political, by prioritizing, negotiating and persuading, by collaborating, joining forces, sharing resources. Quiet quitting is not the answer, loud dedication is. We cannot believe in the lonely genius. Work itself must be revolutionized, so that we may commit to architecture once again, the business of architecture.